You're not choosing your behavior. You're running a code. You think you made the decision, but it made you before you even noticed. You walked away. You sent the text. You stayed silent. You said yes, again. And afterward, you called it choice. But it wasn't. It was a pattern, a loop, a reflex, a response you've rehearsed so many times. Your nervous system runs it without permission. That's not identity. That's interface. It's just who your system became to survive pressure, conflict, abandonment, shame. Now you call it your personality. But look closer. It's just a program. Trigger, emotion, reaction, justify, repeat. Different day, same code. And if you don't interrupt it, you won't change. You'll just get better at defending the loop. This is where rewiring starts. Not with insight, not with willpower, but with a disruption. A single moment where the pattern starts to run, and you don't follow. Let's dissect that moment like code. Patterns aren't thoughts. They're nervous system code. You think you're overthinking, but you're not. You're auto-running a pattern. Because patterns aren't thoughts. They're code. And once installed, they don't need your permission. They just activate. You get triggered. Your system pulls up the same reaction you've used 100 times. Not because it's wise, not because it works, but because it's familiar. That's what the nervous system is built for. Efficiency. Not truth, not clarity, just speed. Here's how a pattern works. Something reminds you of danger, emotional or physical. Your body doesn't check if it's real. It doesn't check truth. It checks match. If yes, it deploys the old solution. Fast, unquestioned, automatic. The message isn't, "This is happening now." It's, "We've seen this before, run the file." That's why your reaction feels bigger than the moment. Because it's not just about the moment. It's powered by everything the moment reminds you of. This isn't thought. This is wiring. That's why no amount of logic can stop you from spiraling. No positive mindset can override the code until the pattern is interrupted. And here's the trap. Each time you run the loop, the brain rewards it with a signal. Safe, familiar, survived. So it reinforces it. The more you repeat it, the faster it loads. Eventually, you stop noticing it altogether. You just act, react, regret, and then call it who I am. But you're not your pattern. You're just the one who's been running it the longest. So don't try to fight the reaction. That gives it fuel. What you need is a system-level break. Not louder thinking, colder interruption. Let's locate the loop before it launches, before it pulls you back in. Signs. You're being driven by an unconscious pattern. You think you made the decision, but it ran before you even accessed choice. Here's how you know you're not in control. The pattern is: 1. You react faster than you can explain. The text came. You felt heat in your chest. You typed, sent, then thought, "Why did I do that? That's not logic. That's code." 2. You regret your reaction, but still do it again next time. You promised you'd stay calm. You said you'd walk away. But the moment hit, and the loop took over. You didn't choose it. You followed it. 3. The same emotional spiral shows up in different situations, different people, different context. Same reaction. Why? Because the pattern doesn't care who triggered it. It just wants to complete itself. 4. You feel the need to justify behavior that didn't feel like a choice. You say, "I only said that because I was tired. It wasn't me. It was the pressure. It just happened." It didn't just happen. It ran like a script. 5. You feel stuck in cycles that feel old, but somehow still active. You keep attracting the same dynamics, same breakdowns, same regrets. Not because life repeats, but because your system is repeating what it never interrupted. And until you break the sequence, it doesn't matter how much you reflect, journal, or promise to do better. The pattern doesn't change just because you're aware of it. It changes when you disrupt it. And that's what we do next. The brain doesn't want what's right. It wants what's familiar. You think your brain wants clarity, progress, healing, but it doesn't. It wants what it already knows how to survive. Your brain isn't wired for transformation. It's wired for repetition. That's why you keep doing the same thing you swore you'd stop, why you shut down in conflict, overthink simple choices, overextend to feel safe. Not because you enjoy it, but because it's familiar. And in the language of the nervous system, familiar equals safe. Even if it's ruining you, that's the trap. The brain doesn't check, is this smart? It checks, have we done this before and not died? If yes, it repeats it. Harder, faster, more automatically. That's why healing feels so uncomfortable, because healing equals uncompressed code, and unfamiliar equals flagged as threat, and unknown equals unsafe until proven otherwise. You set a boundary, your system panics. You pause instead of reacting. Your body screams that you're losing control. You say no? It feels like you're breaking something ancient. You're not. You're just interrupting a loop that thinks it's protecting you. But here's the truth. The pattern isn't there to serve you. It's there to conserve energy. It's not personal. It's mechanical. So every time you default to anger, guilt, silence, over-explaining, your brain isn't punishing you. It's protecting the shortest route to certainty, even if that route takes you straight back into dysfunction. That's why change doesn't come from wanting better. It comes from making your nervous system feel safe in what's unfamiliar. And that starts with one thing: breaking the loop before it completes itself. Let's make that tactical next. Pattern interruption protocol. 3 tactical steps to break the loop. You don't change a pattern by reflecting on it. You change it by interrupting its momentum. Not later, not after. In real time, when it starts. Here's how the cold mind breaks the loop. 3 tactical steps. No story, no emotion, just disruption. 1. Pattern. Mapping. Before you can interrupt a pattern, you need to see it clearly. Most people only notice the emotion, not the full code. You need the sequence. Trigger, emotion, reaction, outcome, justification. Example: they don't respond. You feel ignored. You text again. You spiral. You tell yourself, I just care too much. That's not personality. That's automation. Write it down. Name it. Pattern mapped equals pattern weakened. 2. Interrupt the auto run. Now catch the moment when the loop wants to activate. Same trigger, same rising emotion. But this time, do nothing. Literally, stop, breathe, change posture, stand, drink water, leave the room. You're not running away. You're breaking rhythm. Even a 3-second glitch corrupts the auto response. The response cycle. Enough to restore manual control. The goal here isn't comfort. It's interference. Break the loop before it completes the script. 3. Replace with micro-choice. Once the loop is broken, insert a tiny, intentional behavior that violates the pattern. Not a grand move, just something unexpected. Instead of explaining, stay silent. Instead of texting, journal it. Instead of spiraling, walk. Why? Because the nervous system doesn't need drama. It just needs evidence that a new pathway is possible. Repeat that micro choice at the same trigger point, and the loop rewires. That's pattern interruption. Map the code. Break the sequence. Replace the reflex, not with emotion, with structure. You don't fix the pattern. You starve it until it stops running. Final message. The pattern doesn't die. You just stop feeding it. You've seen someone like this. They pause when others spiral. They breathe when others react. They choose what others repeat. Not because they're stronger, but because they broke the loop before it finished loading. They didn't need a big breakthrough. They just needed one clear moment to not do what their system always expected. No overreaction, no explanation, no fix. Just stillness in the middle of the pattern, and the process halted. That's how rewiring begins. Not when you feel better, not when you understand more, but when you finally say, "This reaction doesn't get to run today," and then do something different. Quiet, small, unfamiliar. That's enough, because the pattern doesn't die when you fight it. It dies when you stop feeding it. One pause, one override, one new input. In the next video, we'll go deeper into interruption by learning the strategic no. How one clean no can collapse years of emotional obedience, compliance, and code you never agreed to run. Subscribe, break the loop, starve the pattern, reclaim the system,